So the tug of war begins in rugby union now between the battle between R360 and the traditional powers of rugby union. There's been a joint statement made by the leading nations within the rugby world of Ireland, New Zealand, Scotland, England, France and South Africa, just to name a few, who kind of wish to keep rugby a traditional sport. However, in regards to the R360 would be a kind of franchise model which would look to bring in a lot more investment to the sport, which the traditional unions have now welcomed, and they say that they want to see fresh investment because rugby has been struggling for a while financially. To be fair, they can't afford to pay players the way that soccer or football is, and they're looking for other ways to source that finance. R360 looks to be an option for them to do that. However, that would mean that the traditional calendar with the traditional events may be threatened, which these powers don't like. The powers have never wanted to share with newer nations arriving. This is seen very much so with Georgia being excluded from the Six Nations and other competitions like that, even though they've been let into the European competitions. That's a whole different story, but it kind of shows that these countries want to keep the same teams for the financial gains playing. If it affects the kind of level of standard, then maybe the finances might not be worth it, and that's how they're viewing the R360 at the minute. But look, what do you think? Do you think the R360 is a good thing? Do you think that it could destroy what we know as the traditional rugby union? Or do you want to keep rugby union the same? Do you want them to keep the same systems? I would prefer to see a mix of both. To be fair, I would like to see the investment come. I'd like to see the growth of the sport in many different ways, but I'd like to see the growth of the sport through the traditional channels, not through the R360. But look, I've been Brendan McGilligan. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your comments and talking to you later.